It is finally fall, so it's time to get cozy. What's up, Brew Crew? Clay here with Beer City Board Games, and now that we are into October and the temperature is finally starting to drop, we're getting into my favorite time of year. I love fall. I like bonfires and football and Halloween. There's just something very comforting about this season to me. So for today's Sixer, I wanted to talk about my favorite comfort games. So what is a comfort game? I think a lot of us are familiar with the idea of comfort food. It's typically something that is warm and inviting and reminds you of being home. So for this list, I tried to think of games that gave me that same type of feeling. Most of these games are games that, generally speaking, do not have a lot of negative player interaction. They're fairly low-stress games to play, and the themes are very pleasant. So let's kick things off with my number 6. My number 6 game on the list is Pollen, which is a game by Reiner Knizia with beautiful art by Beth Sobel and published by Allplay. We first tried this game out at GrandCon this year and ended up picking up a copy. The cards in this game are gorgeous, and if you get the upgraded tokens, it looks even better on the table. This game has 3 different types of insect tokens that you're trying to collect, butterflies, June bugs, and honeybees. And you'll collect these tokens by playing down cards that match symbols to the insects that are shown on the pollinator tokens. So it's a little tile card laying and a little bit area majority. In the end, only the player who has the most of at least one type of insect will add up the tokens for the other 2 types that they do not hold the majority in, and that will be their final score. If one player manages to have the majority in 2 insect types, they automatically win. It's a very Knizian design choice that forces you to diversify and not just focus on collecting one insect type. Super beautiful, super chill, even for an area majority game. That's Pollen. My number 5 is a game that does have a little bit of tension, but that's completely overshadowed by the level of cuteness in the game, and that's Boop. Or, if you have the Halloween edition like we do, Boop. This is a 2-player abstract strategy game from Smirk and Laughter and designed by Scott Brady. It has to be the cutest abstract game that I've ever seen. Now, typically, I would say that abstracts don't really fit on this list, at least for me, because I find them incredibly stressful, because I'm always worrying about making the wrong move. It's hard to feel stressed, though, when playing Boop. There are definitely some difficult tactical decisions to be made here, but when your pieces are cute little cats and kittens, and your player board is an actual quilt, I mean, it doesn't really get much comforting than that. The game itself has you placing kittens on the bed, and if you place it next to any kittens that are already on the bed, they will move 1 space away. You're trying to graduate your kittens into cats and get 3 cats in a row, or trying to get all of your active cats and kittens on the board at the same time. The Boop version adds ghost cats, which move and behave a little differently, but honestly, I would recommend picking up either version as they're both very good. That's Boop. My number 4 game is a very comforting game for me in a very specific situation, and that's Paperback. Now, in its competitive mode, this would definitely not be a comforting game for me. It would belong on my list of games that make me feel dumb. However, Jen and I really enjoy playing this game cooperatively, and in that situation, I find it to be a very comforting game to play. If you're not familiar with Paperback, it's a deck-building word game like Dominion crossed with Scrabble. You draw a hand of cards and use them to make a word, and each letter in the word will give you a certain benefit, either letting you buy more letter cards or giving you a special ability. In the cooperative version, you and your partner are trying to work your way up a pyramid of point cards, each with increasing costs to purchase. And each round that goes by where you don't purchase a card from that pyramid, you have to put a cube on it. And if there are ever 4 cubes on one card, you lose. It can be very difficult, which is something I want in a co-op. And working with Jen helps take some of the pressure off. And it just reminds me of a cozy afternoon reading books. So that's why it made my number 4 spot, paperback. Number 3 is a game that we just recently tried out, and that's Forest Shuffle. This game is designed by Koch and published by Lookout Games as part of their new Green Line label, which is aimed at producing more environmentally friendly games using recycled papers and eliminating plastic use. Now, this game has some incredibly charming artwork by Tony Yobet. In this game, you're going to be planting trees into a forest and then inhabiting the forest with different animals, insects, flowers, mushrooms, all by sliding them under either the top or bottom or either side of your trees. Each card played into your forest will have some sort of scoring condition, often based on some form of set collection. There are a lot of games with this type of theme out there now, but I think the especially beautiful artwork and the way that the cards will score really helps to evoke the theme of walking through a forest and observing these plants and animals. I highly recommend taking a look at this one if you enjoy nature-themed games. That's Forest Shuffle. My number 2 is another 2-player game, and that's Beer and Bread. I didn't think about this as I was making the list, but I think in general I just find sitting down to play a game with Jen very comforting. Beer and Bread uses multi-use cards, which is something that I love, and also has a very interesting resource management aspect. Storage space for your resources is very limited, and if you ever take more than what you are able to store, you must first offer the excess resources to your opponent before discarding them. This adds an additional layer of tension to an already challenging balancing act. The theme of this game is what puts it on the list for me, though. The players play as 2 rival villages who are having a contest to see who can bake the best bread and brew the best beer. Now, obviously, I like the occasional beer, but also fall is the time of year where we really get into the baking mood, and there's nothing more comforting than the smell of fresh baking bread in the oven. Add that to already solid gameplay, and that's why Beer and Bread made it to the number 2 spot on my list. And finally, my number 1 comforting game probably won't surprise too many people, and that's Creature Comforts. It's literally in the title. This is an adorable title from Kids Table Board Games and designed by Roberta Taylor. Now, the entire premise of this game is that you are cute little woodland creatures trying to collect the most comfy things before winter arrives. You'll be making things like scarves, candles, maybe building a fireplace, or filling your bookshelf. Not only is the theme comforting, but this also is a competitive game that manages to retain a fair amount of tension without having any direct player interaction. This is accomplished with a really clever dice worker placement mechanism. Each player has their own family dice, which they will roll and then allocate their workers. Then the first player rolls the village dice, which will be shared amongst all players. So you're committing your workers before you know the entire scope of what you'll be able to do for a round. Players both use the same village dice, so there's no blocking anyone out of anything, but it is possible that you may not get what you want for the round. In that case, you'll get a lesson learned token, which will help you out in the future. Every part of this game feels like it was intentionally designed to feel good while you play it. I understand that may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I can't think of a better game to top off this list. So that's why my number 1 comfort game is Creature Comforts. All right, that's it for this Sixer. In the comments below, let me know what's your favorite season. And also let me know what you consider to be your comfort games. And until next time, let's get another round for the table.